Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Again, my name is Lori McNaught, and I am your Scale Up Business Coach. Today, I want to welcome you, and I'm really excited about the topic here today because it's one that's near and dear to my heart. And that's really about building a winning team. I've been coaching businesses, as I've said on all my videos, for more than 2 decades now, and I've never seen one company that really excelled and exceeded expectations if they didn't put a lot of emphasis on building a winning team. You never succeed alone. It's never just you. And if you let your ego get in the way and feel like it needs to be you or you need to be right, then I got to tell you straight up, you're going to struggle. You're going to have a hard time. You're going to have times when you are feeling completely, just hang on, feeling where you're completely overwhelmed and stressed. So in order to succeed at the highest level, you need to build a winning team. So let's talk about, I want to lay some groundwork first here before I get too far into the presentation. And that is to tell you a little bit about myself, because I think it's really important. And that is, when I was a young man, I had dyslexia and ADHD, and for that reasons, I struggled a lot in school. And because I struggled a lot in school, I had, maybe not the highest uh, self-confidence, if I could put it that way. And because of that, I did a lot of different things. I had a lot of different jobs, did a lot of things, maybe some things that certainly didn't help. Like a lot of young people, drugs and alcohol were a bit of my youth and really consumed a good 10 years of my life. Anyway, long story short, I turned 26 years old, and I woke up one day and I said, there has to be more to life than this. I got to do something more with my life. And so I began my journey on personal self-development. First thing I did, though, was I moved away from my hometown, so I was outside of the influence of my friends, and I had a lot of time on my hands during the week because I wasn't going out and hanging out with my friends. And so I started reading. The first book that I read was called Psycho-Cybernetics by a guy by the name of Maxwell Maltz, who really, I mean, he lit the fuse, let's put it that way. And really, the gist of the book is your mind can't tell the difference between something that actually happened and something that you vividly um, envisioned inside your mind. And you talk about sports today. Uh, um, a lot of sports people use visualization. In fact, I use visualization when I golf. I don't do very well at it, but I still do it. But anyways, so I started that journey, and I through some encouragement from some friends that I met here in the city here, I went to a program called Contacts and Associates Pursuit of Excellence. And at first, when they first told me about it, and they said it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's $500, and I thought to myself, there's nothing that's worth $500. I couldn't have been more wrong about that. I couldn't have been more wrong about that. So I went to the Pursuit of Excellence, and I went to a program called The Wall, which was like we were sequestered away on an island I think it was a Boy Scout hall or whatever. And there was maybe 20 of us there, and we went through a 4-day program there. And then I went back here to Advancement of Excellence. I'm not going to get into too much detail here because I want to make sure I finish on time, but I also took a program called Investment in Excellence through the Pacific Institute. And then one night I was staying up late, and I was introduced to Tony Robbins, and I bought his 30 Days to Personal Power, which then led to me going to, pardon me, it was Power to Influence Weekend, or Unlimited Power Weekend. And then I did a Power to Influence, which was a local program. And then I went to Life Mastery, Date with Destiny, and Financial Mastery, which was live with Tony Robbins. It was a total of about 20 days, all three programs. I joined Toastmasters and became got into public speaking, which was really exciting because for like a lot of people, that was probably my arch nemesis, was speaking in front of groups of people. And I mastered the public speaking, and that was really something that broke down the fear barrier for a lot of things. Then I went on to go to Peak Potentials Train the Trainer 1 and 2 in their ultimate leadership camp, Master of Influence, and I was also 16 years with the #1 business coaching company in the world. I was a multiple time award-winning top 10% coach. Now I say that because there was 800 to 1,000 coaches at any given time, so I was in the top 10% for growth and retention, and I'm proud of the growth that I have, but I'm more proud of the retention, because the retention, you get a high retention rate when you get results with your clients. And so I've been coaching business owners and their teams for over 2 decades now. I've been to more than 24 business conferences, listening to some of the top speakers in the world, and I continue to educate myself every single day. Now, why do I share all of that with you? One reason: you can't tell me that it can't be done, because I went from struggling to have any confidence at all in myself to becoming one of the top coaches in that coaching franchise and speaking at global conferences, 500 to 1,000 people, and going on to having a very successful business coaching career. So with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about, what it takes to build a successful business from a more systematic standpoint. And that is, the first thing you need to do is have a vision, mission, and values that really rallies your whole team. And you need to understand your financial statements. You don't need to understand them the way an accountant understands them. You need to understand them from the perspective of an entrepreneur, meaning, okay, what's my gross profit margin? Is it the same this month as it was last month? If not, what's the difference? Is it higher? Is it lower? You need to understand what your financial statements are teaching you. You need to understand how you best to use your time. I always think about the 80-20 rule when it comes to time. 20% of the things that you do provide you 80% of the results. So there's where you need to focus most of your time. And when you do that, you are going to get your time back. And of course, as you leverage into your business and make it more profitable, that now you have money to buy back your time as well. The other part, and I already talked a little bit about this at the opening, and that is, you got to have a winning team. Nobody succeeds on their own. No business owner goes, 20 years in business with a huge amount of success, and I did that. It's a team of people that do it. Delivering world-class customer experiences. When you do that, people come back more often. They tell their friends and family and colleagues about it, and you can eliminate a portion of your marketing. You always need to be marketing, but you can eliminate some of the marketing because you're going to get referrals from past clients and customers. So, and then you need to be able to create systems and learn how to delegate properly so you can scale your business up, because you can't scale without systems. If everything is inside your head and it relies on you telling everybody what to do, you cannot scale up. I've said this before, as a business owner, you can hustle to get to 6 figures. You might hustle to get to 7 figures, but you're never going to stay there unless you understand this equation, if I could call it that, and that will lead to a highly profitable, scalable business. So here's 7 reasons why your business won't scale. You focus all of your energy on revenue and not profit. Somebody said to me one time, revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. No truer words could be spoken. Your operations won't scale. We talked a little bit about that from the perspective of, if you don't have systems and processes, you cannot scale. You don't invest in hiring the best people. And I'm going to talk about that because this is what this presentation is all about, hiring the right people. And you lack strategic partnerships. It's hard to build a business without having strategic partners. And it's a simple way to explain that is to say, like, for instance, I'm a business coach. So what other businesses also do business with business owners? Well, accountants, marketing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So creating strategic partnerships, and you're being more reactive instead of proactive. And I think that probably speaks for itself, but just to give it a little bit of clarity is to say, if you don't plan, if you don't create systems, then you're always going to be putting out fires and you're always going to be reactive instead of being proactive. So proactive is, I'm going to talk about that more in this presentation as well. And number 6 is you fear raising your prices. I've read many quotes like this, but one that I just recently read maybe a couple of months ago was 86% of people will pay more for value. So remember that, pay more for value, not just pay more. If you got 3 companies and this company adds massive value and these 2 are exactly the same price and they're a little less priced, yes, they are going to attract those people that only care about price. But the other company over here that only attracts those that pay for value is going to be more profitable. And number 7 is you don't have an exit strategy. And really what that means is like build a profitable business that runs without you, because then one day you'll be able to sell that company at a tidy little return on your investment. So lots of people buy, build, and then sell businesses. Most of the people that I deal with don't do that, but they buy a business. And if you build it so that it runs without you, now it has value to investors and other people who want to say, I'll invest and pay $1 million or $5 million or 10 or 20, whatever it is, because I know the predictable return on my investment is going to be. So have an exit strategy. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why I use this particular slide. I have a dream, I called it, and it's really about a vision. And think of your business as being that lighthouse that attracts the best talent. It attracts the best customers. It attracts other people who want to work with, work with companies that have a vision for the future. And so I like the idea of the lighthouse because, again, it creates a safe space. And if you think about this, and I've said this to many people, like, you don't want to make people feel unsafe. And we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. You don't want your team to feel unsafe. You want to feel like this is a safe harbor for them to come, because you're going to attract the best employees. Now, the best employees are those people that are highly engaged and highly productive. If you're looking at a sales position, for instance, you'll have a top salesperson, but they may not be that person that like rockets sales, but then destroys everything else inside the business. So you want to have the best team, because what we want to do is create, as I said, a profitable business that runs without you. So become that lighthouse, become the lighthouse that attracts the best employees, become the lighthouse that attracts best suppliers, become the lighthouse that attracts best customers. And it's really hard to fail. So we're going to talk, this is what this whole presentation is all about. It's about building a winning team. And I put the little picture of the little gears and the people walking in the gears, because to me, that just represents how important it is to everybody's heard this, so build a well-oiled machine, how important it is, because if you think about a bicycle, for instance, if a wheel is missing a spoke or a spoke is loose, then that wheel is going to be out of balance and you're not going to have something that functions at its highest level. And if you want to have a winning team, you got to have a team that functions together at the highest level. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you can expect from our time here today. So I want to keep an eye on my time. BFO. So somebody's saying, what is a BFO? Well, a BFO is a blinding flash of the obvious. Here's the thing. I know a lot of the business owners that I know, when we sit down and we create goals and we create a plan and we put some systems and processes and they go back, man, I should have done this years ago. I knew a lot of this stuff, but I just never put it into play. I never used it. So that's a blinding flash of the obvious. I put the words I know in here because a lot of people especially when I first start talking to business owners, it's in a more formal manner, and I start talking about things, and they go, "Oh, I know," and they're nodding their heads like this. Sorry, I don't mean to look sarcastic. Well, maybe I do a bit. But the problem is it's not enough to know. You have to do. And if you're not doing, I'm sorry, you don't know. And so I always say, get rid of the I know instead of saying, "Oh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I used to do this," or I thought about doing this a long time ago. So for the rest of this presentation and for the rest of the time in your business, just think about the perspective of, you know what? I don't know what I don't know. Okay, so let's keep moving along. So it all begins here. And this slide I use in every one of my presentations because it's so important for any business to understand, any business owner to understand this, and their teams to understand this. And that is ownership, accountable, and responsible people. You are the solution. People who use blame or excuses or deny, they are the problem. And listen, I got to be straight up front because oftentimes the business owner is the bottleneck in the business. And it's in part because they don't really realize that they're using blame and excuses and denial until it's sort of really a mirror is put up in front of their faces. And I say, take ownership, be accountable, and be responsible. And when I first talk to business owners about that, they're always sort of salivating about how they can use this against their team, I would say, rather than for their team. And if you want to know if you're being accountable, responsible, and taking ownership, is to look at your team, because if they're not doing that, then you're probably somebody who doesn't do that. So it's really, really important that you get above this line, because if you stay below the line, like I said, you're the problem, and it's like dragging an anchor around. And I know everybody who starts a business, has this idea that it's just going to be like this. Well, here's where it starts. Okay, you got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, I'm telling you, and for those of you who are listening, who never sat down and made a plan for their business, set goals and made a plan for their business, you can relate to what this looks like. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a look at what, because this is about people and about your team. What are some of the systems that you can put into place that helps your business grow and thrive and become something you can be proud of, and it's something that builds a lifestyle for you, something that you gets you home for supper every night, gets you to your kids' baseball games, hockey games, soccer games, gets you to their birthday parties, where you get to take weekends off, and where you can take a vacation and you're not going to come back to chaos. So, you need to run an ongoing training system. A trained team is, just think about that for a second. Even when I just say that, it just becomes so obvious. People who know what they're doing are better at doing it. So run ongoing training system all the time, because things change. So complete team member positional contracts. So that for some of you, that's job descriptions or positional agreements, however you want to describe them. Complete team skill based sessions. So this is an ongoing thing. Have a redundancy system. So, train this person to do this person's job, so that if this person is sick or can't come to work or is on vacation, this person can step right in and do the job. Develop a team social club. Subscribe to educational newsletters and magazines. Definitely do that and get them in the hands of your team. Develop an induction training program, so that gets people, trained up as fast as possible. Develop a system for conflict resolution. It's so much easier to deal with conflict when first of all, you've talked to your team about, this is how we solve conflict inside our organization. And then when you go to solve that conflict, you use that tool. Sorry, I got to keep an eye on my time. Anyway, I don't want to go through the whole list here. There's a good list here. But you need to have all these things in place, and you're going to have yourself an amazing team. Yes. Okay. So what do you want? You want predictable profits. You want an accountable team. You want business independence, meaning you don't need to be there all the time, which gives you personal time freedom, meaning, again, like I talked about earlier, you're home for supper, you're at your kids' birthday parties or sporting events, and you take weekends off and you take vacations, because these are really, really important. As I said before, you can hustle your way to six, maybe hustle your way to seven figures. You're not going to stay there hustling, though. You need to create the systems and processes to have a team of people that run those things that's going to allow you to have that freedom. But you need to have vacation time, because it's that time when you get to recharge and look at other things that are important to your life. So, three systems every business needs, and that's vision for the company, alignment with the team, accountable leadership team, and we talked a little bit about above and below the line, and that you need to have scalable systems and processes that the team runs. I want to make this point because if I'm not completely clear on it, or I haven't been completely clear on it, is a business is a series of systems and processes that are run by a team of people. And when you have that in place and you have the right people in place and the right systems in place, it creates order out of chaos. So let's talk a little bit more about the vision. What does a vision really look like? Well, it's something that's into the future, and it typically is not like something that you necessarily are going to attain. It's something that's bigger than the company itself. It's larger, so it's something that you're always moving towards. And then the mission is how you're going to get there. So you're going to hire the best people. You're going to have all those training systems that I talked about before. You're going to have a reward system, a lot of stuff. I'm not going to go too deep in it because I'm covering this in other slides. But so you want everybody moving towards a vision with a mission and core values. And core values are just how do people behave in that environment. So, cooperative, teamwork, honesty, integrity, do what's right all the time, step up and be part of the team, that kind of stuff. And then ownership and purpose across the whole organization. You want everybody to feel like they're an owner inside the company. And I always think about from this perspective is as the business owner, you should be working hard to make your team rich, because they're going to help you get rich when you do that. If you're stuck in this place where my business is for me to get really, really, really wealthy, I'm sorry, you're going to have a hard time with that. And if that's your sort of attitude about life and about business in general, I'm going to make an offer at the end of this presentation to have a meeting with me, a Zoom meeting to start with. But I'm not interested in talking to people that are only focused on making more money. I'm way more interested in talking to people who want to make a difference in the world. And when you make a difference for your team, they're going to make a difference for you. And it's going to make your life so much more fun, so much more easy. So you need to have a org chart with clear roles and responsibilities. You need to delegate versus abdicate. Because you don't like doing a job, you just don't hire somebody and say, just do this, without really understanding the outcome of that particular task or project, and be able to explain, this is how I want this to be done, and this is the end result. And for now, we're going to do it my way until we sit down, because we're having regular meetings where we figure out a better way to do it. For now, we're going to do it this way. And then have leadership development. You need to be developing your leaders all the time. John Maxwell in his book, 5 Levels of Leadership, talks about, I don't want more followers, I want more leaders. And so develop the leadership on your team, and everyone can show leadership. The person sweeping the shop can show leadership. Accountability systems, you need to have a system for who does what and by when. And if you don't follow up with that, then nobody's going to be accountable. Okay, let's keep moving along. I always seem to go a little longer than I intend to go. My apologies for that. So team is, I like this acronym, and I say it really with emphasis because I think it has way more impact when I say it that way. And that is that together, so this is the acronym, everyone achieves more. Together, everyone achieves more. If you look at life from that perspective, I think it's just easier for everybody. Okay, let's keep moving along. So keys to building a winning team is to have strong leadership. And we're going to talk about what strong leadership looks like in a second. You need to have a common goal. Now, the vision is the common where are we going, but a common goal, I would work with clients that say, what is it that you want to accomplish this month? And what is it that you want to accomplish this year? And then how are you going to celebrate when you get there? And that means celebrate with your team. Core values, we talked about that. You got to have core values. This is, I don't say it this way. I don't know if it makes sense this way, but I say this is your sandbox. So if the kids are going to come and play in your sandbox, they're going to play by your rules, not theirs. Because if they're playing by their rules, you might, at the end of the day, have no toys left. You got to have a plan. A players, the best employees, uh, they have hopes, dreams, desires, and goals that they want to accomplish. And so if they come to work for you and you don't have a plan, you don't have goals, you don't have direction, you don't have vision, you don't have all that stuff we've talked about already, I'm sorry, they're going to go someplace where they do because they want to hit their goals. Oops. Support risk taking, that just all that simply means is like people that show initiative, praise them for the initiative. If they make a mistake, talk about the mistake and how you make sure that it doesn't happen again. You don't jump down their throat, because if you do that, then they stop taking any kind of initiative. And then the last thing is 100% inclusion. And really what that means is if you think about a sporting team, especially a professional sporting team, but the first and second lines of a hockey team, for instance, they make the most money and they get the most accolades, they get the most fame. Pardon me, the third, fourth line, they don't get paid near as much. They don't get near as much fame, but they're just as important if you're going to win the Stanley Cup as the first two lines, because you can't win the Stanley Cup with just two lines. Okay, so what are some characteristics of strong leaders? Well, they have vision and clarity. We talked about that. Integrity and authenticity. Listen, if you don't have integrity, my advice to you is get out of business, because you're going to ruin other people's lives. And be authentic. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It takes courage to be vulnerable. And people want to know that you're a real person and you're not some sort of zombie, if I could say it that way. So have emotional intelligence, good communication skills. You hold yourself to a high level of accountability and ownership of the results. You are decisive. As I talked about earlier, you have courage. You have the ability to inspire and empower people. That's so powerful, to be able to inspire other people who want to step up to the plate and do more and be more and have more. Adaptability and resilience, my friends, sometimes it's going to be hard. And you got to have resilience. And you probably heard this before, but it's worthwhile repeating, is that the most successful people on the planet have made multiple mistakes. Made multiple mistakes before they got successful. So adaptability and power, adaptability and resilience, strategic, you got to be strategic thinking, and you're going to have a commitment to growth. So here are 4 books. Like, I've got a bookshelf behind me that's got 300 books on it. A lot of them are about building teams, leadership, all that kind of stuff. But I would say if you read these 4 books, this would change your business 100%. And that's It's Your Ship by Michael Abrashoff. Great book about a general who took one of the worst ships in the U.S. Navy to become one of the best ship. John Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership. Another great book, Conversational Intelligence and Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. The Conversational Intelligence by Judith Glazier, the late Judith Glazier. So winning companies, they know how to get the right people on the bus. People don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. What do people really want? And this is from a Gallup poll. They want a career path. They want stability. They want appreciation. They want communication. They want to have fun. They want to be fairly compensated. You do all that, and you've got some highly engaged people on your team. Now, many of you hire people poorly. And I've seen this in my coaching career so many times. I sometimes wanted to bang my head against the wall. Okay, I'm going to think of one person in particular who wanted to hire a salesperson. I said, okay, well, let's sit down and develop your hiring systems to make sure you get the right person. So I gave him the materials to study. We're going to talk about it the next week. I show up the next week and he says, I hired somebody and I found this perfect person. Long story short, turned out not to be a perfect person. I'm not going to say all the reasons why this person didn't work out, but literally 3 or 4 months later, he fired the guy just because he was doing a terrible job. So, the cost of a bad hire, here's the thing. You got to hire for attitude first and aptitude second, meaning if you look at their resume and they're going to say, well, I'm an electrician or I'm a plumber or I'm a drywaller, or I'm a bricklayer, I'm a window installer, whatever. Okay. And I've got 5 years experience, 10, whatever that is. Now you know that they have the skill. Now all you got to do is uncover the attitude. Okay? Because if you hire people with attitude, they're so much easier to fit into your culture and so much easier to work into the way that you want things done. You hire somebody that's got a bad attitude, they got the right skill set. Yeah, sure, they can do the job, but they upset the whole apple cart. Okay. The true cost of a bad hire is 41% said $25,000 it costs them, 25%, $50,000 it costs them. And it really costs them that because of lost productivity, whatever you paid them, and the morale on the team, and any costs occurred to hire them. So here's the thing: systemize the routine, things in your business, document it, create training around it. I talked about that in the previous slide. I use this boat because there's at least a dozen people on this boat. And if you know anything about sailboat racing, the difference between first and second place is minutes, if not seconds. And it requires that everybody does their job at exactly the right time. And it can't rely on the captain of the ship running around telling everybody what to do all the time. So winning, you got to have a boat that can sail through the waters. This is going to cause you a lot of stress. So the barnacles, I'm equating to people on your team. And then you have no chance of winning the race if your boat is covered with barnacles. So you got a bunch of bad employees. This little slide I created from reading Jack Welch's book, Winning, where he talked about the 20-70-10 rule. 20% of your people are going to be the rock stars. 70% are going to do most of the heavy lifting, and 10% of the people are going to cause you problems. And so you need to be finding them work elsewhere. You want to create maximum productivity and leverage in your company. It comes from creating systems and processes with your people. Okay, so here's the thing now. Extraordinary business aren't built by playing small. Here's the challenge, and it's simple. If you're ready to get it done, and that means to stop talking about and start doing it, then book a discovery call. You can use the link I put into the chat box, and I'll also be putting the link into the description on my YouTube channel. Book a discovery call. It starts with 15, 20 minutes, and really, I want to know, can I help you? And you want to know, am I somebody that you can work with? And I want to know, are you somebody that I can work? And if we think that, first of all, that we can both work together and that it's a challenge that I can help you solve, then we'll book a complimentary coaching session where we'll dive in deeper to the challenges that you're experiencing. And I look at it this way: if you're working too much, or you don't have enough profit, or you got a dysfunctional team, that is symptoms of a problem. So I want to ask a bunch of questions so I can understand what the causes are. Then I'll talk about the systems and processes and the solutions to those challenges. And if we both agree that there's value in that, and you think you would like somebody like me to help guide you, to keep you on track, to hold you accountable, then we'll look at a program that works for you and your company. So thanks for listening. Look at that. 4 minutes overtime. Not bad. I'm gonna take that as a win. You guys have a great day. I look forward to the opportunity to be in of service. Take care.